All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to have you guys here. We will start with me giving credit where credit is due, and that is that I have stolen the idea for the pre-tournament coaches meeting from Coach Chow Ling, who did it for the CGCC qualifier on December 14th, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. And so I'm going to get everybody to mute. That's why I did this, because I thought it was wonderful. And because we have a new venue, every single one of us here is new to this location. And so things that maybe some of you who are returning coaches to this event, all of a sudden, where do we eat? Where do we park? Becomes a challenge again, even though we had that all figured out in past years. So we're going to talk about all of that today. So I want to introduce the main players who are on this call so that you know who's going to be your team supporting you for this event. Hang on a minute. This person. Okay, so the first person is who I've been introducing to you guys through the emails, which is Rick Kale. Rick is the tournament director. He's done this for many, many years, and he'll be the one to walk you through the presentation here in about 30 seconds. We have Nancy, who's on the call, Nancy Okabe, who is the judge advisor for the event. So she'll be the one in charge of all the judges and of the judge deliberation. We have a fantastic location for judging this year. No more of the traffic and the noise going on in the hallways like we had in Tempe. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And then we have Rich Gomez is on the call. Rich is the sort of official head referee for the state of Arizona. However, Rich is unable to join us on January 18. And so our wonderful head ref who's stepped in is Scott Gray. And Scott, if you can just say hi. And we'll talk a little bit. There he is.
Hello.
And we'll talk when we get to the slide on referees. We'll explain to you how things will look slightly different from a very slightly for refereeing. And that's all I got. So I'm going to hand it over to Rick to walk you through the process. He'll probably answer your question with the slides. Yeah, up to you, Rick, if you want people to jump in or put it in the chat, and I can keep an eye on the chat, whatever works for you.
Yeah. Either way, I've got the little chat window open on my screen here as well.
Okay.
Or if you just want to unmute yourself and make yourself known. Again, so welcome everybody. As Elaine said, I'm Rick Kale. I'm the tournament director working behind the scenes to hopefully make sure everything's all set up for when you guys arrive on Saturday morning. Not this Saturday morning, the next one. So as we go through this, just please keep in mind that I might be making some tweaks. We still will have a coaches meeting Saturday morning, and I'll basically go through pretty much these same slides. Hopefully maybe a little bit faster since everybody will have seen them already, but that way if you forget something or between tonight and Saturday morning I remember something else to share, you still have that time to share or ask any last minute questions. So some general site rules. I like to say this for every one of my tournaments. We know that your teams are going to be excited. Please remind them to walk. And especially at this facility, there will be more walking. I've got some maps on upcoming slides, but there will be more walking. And as you go indoors and stuff, we don't want two teams meeting each other, unfortunately, and having Lego pieces fly everywhere. And we all know we're guests here, so please work to keep it clean and neat. That way we can keep using this every year. And we will be providing practice fields in the pits. Right now, I've got 10 in the layout there for everybody to share. Um, and due to just space concerns, there's going to be a lot of people in there. We're asking to only use those provided practice fields this year. Um, Emergency evacuation. And again, we are going to be in Tempe. We're just in the MU in one facility. So pretty much if something happened, it would affect everybody. This year, we're going to be basically in 3 separate buildings. So in theory, something could affect one building and not the other. So if something happens to your building exit, I'm thinking that the large grass lawn area will probably be a good area for you to regroup with your team. And then depending on what the emergency is, we'll reevaluate what happens to the schedule. But this isn't going to be necessary. So here's our site map. Uh, Again, we're now at ASU West Valley. That's Thunderbird and I think about 2 miles west of I-17. And we will have your pits will be in the basketball courts of the Sun Devil Fitness Center down here. Oh, I guess first, parking is in lot 11. And Elaine is recommending that you download the AMP Park app because that's the, I guess, vendor or the app that ASU parking uses. And that's how you will need to pay for your parking during the day. You'll come through here. We'll have some signs to help guide. In University Center is the La Sala Ballroom, and that is where the opening, closing ceremonies will be, as well as the robot competition game all day. So it looks like a very large room when we went to look at it, so it should add some nice space. But we're also going to fill it up with. Last year we had 4 competition tables. This year we're going to have 6. And then, like I said, Sun Devil Fitness Center will be your team pitch, your home for the day. And then the Sands building on the second floor is the set of classrooms that will be used as the judging pods. Let's see. I'll let
Let me,
Elaine.
yeah, let me drop into CJ's question. CJ, do you see where it says VRDE? That's the Verde, that's the cafeterias. In fact, that's one place you can eat. And then this gray area between VRDE and UCB, yeah, exactly where Rick has his little, right there. You can pull in, drop off, and go park. And then when you go through this, as a matter of fact, I think that's where we're directing you to walk. It
Yeah.
is very short from there into the La Sala Ballroom. Very easy.
Well, I think he said for the pits where they have to pull all their stuff.
Okay,
It's
oh, sorry.
much
For the
farther.
pits, I have a picture that they gave me just this afternoon. Hang on. Where did I put that picture? Oh, right here. I have it open. Okay. Let me see if I can control. How would I? Hang on. Oh, yes. That's exactly the picture I have. If you go, can you roll up? Okay, right there. You see where it says Westwood Drive? You would go on there and then you go on North 47th Drive. He said if you go and offload over there, you should have a good area there too, and then you walk in through the back door of the SDFC. So let me take that down as a note because we'll add a map for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's super helpful.
Yep, map for dropping off in pits. Okay, I want to make sure there's two-way traffic because if we have you guys
Okay.
drop off there, we want
This
to make
doesn't
sure
look
that
like a
there's room.
road. I think they'd
Yeah.
have to be on wood.
It's wood. And but then he said you're allowed to drive on North 47 Drive.
Oh.
And then he said there's at
uh,
yeah, I'll get it for you. I,
Yeah.
I have this picture, but I don't think I can put a picture in the chat. I don't think I'm allowed. Yeah, can't do that. Okay, we'll send that to you guys. It's this picture, but with directions. Okay.
Yeah. That's mostly, I mean, me walking it when we're viewing it, I think it took us a minute and a half or so to get from in here to La Sala. So, I mean, it's not a long walk, but it's not all together either. So, but your schedules, I don't cover that. Your schedules, the minimum time that any team has in between two events is 12 minutes. So I did try to make that as large as possible. So nobody should have too hard of a time getting from one area to the other. There is some food that will be available on site for your teams to purchase for lunch. Or of course, there's stuff off campus if you have another coach or parent who wants to go get and bring something back. And then there's a nice grass area if you want to have, I guess, a blanket or sit out in the field. Or there's also a little picnic type tables in certain areas. Certainly not enough one for everybody, but everybody will probably be kind of having dispersed lunches anyway. All right, so the general high level schedule, what it's gonna look like. I didn't put it, oh, usually because it's today. Arrival will probably have saying start arriving at like 7:15 a.m. Coaches meeting will start at 8 a.m. We'll probably just do 20 minutes there. And then 8:30, the opening ceremony. And right after opening ceremony at 8:45, the first robot practice round will start. If your team is randomly put into matches 1 and 2, they will be up at their game table sitting down. And if they're in 3 or 4, they'll be queued at the back of the room ready to go quickly. I need to look at the times. I might have matches 5 and 6 queued as well, just due to the longer walk times. So we'll have time to get that started, and then at 9 a.m. the first judging sessions will start. 10:15 is when we transition from your practice round into the official rounds. 1 p.m. will be when the teams need to submit their nomination forms for coach mentor and peer awards. Oops, I still need to decide where I'm going to put the box again. I think that'll probably change. Your lunch break, so there won't be a defined lunch where the entire event comes to a pause. So you should have large gaps during your day. So you'll just need to find one of those times and have your lunch there. And then if all goes according to plan, about 4:15, I'm figuring that the closing ceremony should start. And then that'll take 30 to 45 minutes with the number of teams that we have, I think. But I always tell myself to time my closing ceremonies and either forget, or when I write it down, I forget to save it. So, but that's my gut feeling. So we should be out by 5. Oh, what building is check-in? There will be a table at the Sun Devil Fitness Center in front of your pits. So as you bring your stuff, you'll just check in down there. But I'll be sending all of you a email shortly as well, probably either end of this week or Sunday night, and I'll put all this information in there for you as well. One final round or judging session will take place. I do just not on the top of my head. So the final judging session ends at 1:41. And the final robot round should end at 2:38. Opening ceremonies. As I mentioned, those first teams will be in the room and ready to go. That way, because we start our first rounds as like kind of part of the amp up of the opening ceremony. We will have a queuing team and a person in the pits who will be able to talk to each other to help if you're not showing up where you need to go, to kind of provide a gentle reminder. In general, and also about this, and your team schedule will have a note on there for you if it applies to you. The closing ceremony agenda. Since there will be a gap of time, let's have our team pits basically cleaned and are packed up. So at the end of closing ceremony, it should be easy to wrap up the day. The teams will walk across the front of the ballroom to receive their award or medal. We'll go through the medals first, and all the teams will be arranged in numerical order so that it's easy for the announcer to just do a continuous stream and recognize the teams. And then we'll go to the judged awards, learn who our champions are, say a couple final closing remarks, and then we'll have the end of the event. And again, I mean, I don't expect you all to remember this now. We'll go over Saturday morning, but pretty much where the first logo is the ballroom. So teams will line up in this kind of serpentine order. We'll have a half sheet of paper with your team number on the ground. So I'll announce to have your team go find their number and stand on it. And then they will go file into the room, get their medal, circulate back out, and then find the end. And when they go back in, then we'll start filling in the floor for the teams to sit so that we can do the awards segment. The general notes, please bring refillable water bottles with you to campus, just part of sustainability so that we're not producing too much extra stuff. And then for the Sun Devil Fitness Complex, for the team pits, everybody needs to enter and exit through the main doors in the front. There are other doors, but they're emergency exits. And they've asked us to make sure that everybody goes in and out of the main doors. Also, please make sure that your students and other people are only in the pits and not wandering around and playing with the gym equipment, because it is just a large, like, open area. And we're just going to be borrowing a little segment of it. And the other college students will still be able to work out, do all their stuff. Food and drinks are acceptable in that part of the facility. Just keep it clean. But absolutely no food in the judging pods, which is the Sands building. Schedule. Y'all have been through at least one qualifier, so you know that these events are highly scripted around time. That your judging session has priority over the robot game match, because the judging session is 30 minutes and the robot game is 2.5, plus or minus the time for setup and the referees to score you. So we can make up those all day long, well, easily. But judging sessions, we we have no way of making that up. And on your schedule, you will see 2 times. One is the time that the session, your judge or your robot game is supposed to start. And then the other time is 5 minutes ahead of that, which is my recommendation for you to be at the queuing area prior to your session. That just kind of helps the queuing team also have some time to find you if you're running late, or if you're working on that last minute code update or something, or you just lost track of time. That gives us some time to kind of help you out and be like, hey, you need to go be somewhere else. So I kind of think of those 2 times as the time you would board your flight versus the time your plane is pushing back from the gate and you missed your flight. And you don't want to miss your flight. And then, as I mentioned for the other question, since judging is ending a little sooner, and then we've got the robot rounds still lasting, we'll be able to run those faster, given, I mean, as fast as is possible, if possible. But other than that, we'll try and stay on schedule as best that we can. The robot game, remind your teams that as soon as they leave and that they sign that the sheet saying that they're good with that score with the referee. If they have any questions about how it's being scored, there at the table is their time. And I'm sure Rich will reiterate this later more eloquently than me. But if you think what's showing up on the scoreboard is wrong, I mean, you could take another look, but it is what it will be from the original score sheet. Coaches, you'll have a designated area to observe and cheer on your team. And those practice fields may not be perfect, but the competition fields will be as perfect as we can make them. All right, so the queuing, just kind of map, you leave, walk, enter the La Sala B. We'll have one big room, but it's dividable into an A, B, and C. B is kind of in the middle, and that's where I'm planning to have the queuing start. Check in with that team, as I mentioned before. When you check in, that allows them to know that you're there and position you so that you can efficiently get to the table when you need to be at the table. And if you aren't showing up for whatever reason, it gives us a couple minutes to be able to identify that you're not there. And then they'll work with the referees to make sure that the table is open and ready for you guys to show up. Similar to judging, walk over there. There's a little courtyard area to the center of the building, and that is where you will see stairs on the north side and elevators on the south side, depending on what your needs may be. Go up to the second floor and then check in with the queuing team there. And depending on what room you're assigned via your schedule, you will either go to the north side or the south side of the building, so that queuing team will help push you to the room that you need to get to. You'll do your judging session, and then when you leave, at the end of the hallway where the rooms will be, is an outdoor staircase. So leave through those and then go back to your pits or your robot game, unless you need the elevator, and then you retrace your steps back to the elevator. I don't know how much Nancy's going to cover, but basically any materials that you want the judges to look at, bring them into the room, or have your team bring them into the room with them. The judges will look at them, and then they will, your team will take that back with them. So don't leave anything with the judges this year. Both nomination forms will be due by 1 p.m. There'll be a box. I'm thinking it'll be pit admin. That's probably a good spot to put that instead. We do plan to use the event hub, so at the end of the event, you should be able to go in there and see all your event results. Are allowing adults to be in the room if they want to observe, but you basically need to be a ghost like you're not there. An advancement. The first and second place championship teams will be advancing to Worlds. But in order to do that, you have to do all the standard stuff. Correct. No material drop off in the morning this year. You'll just keep it with you, take it in to the judges. Yeah, so you complete all your 3 judge categories, all sections of the project. Have 2 to 10 members, no core value disqualification, including other people attached to the team, like your coach, your parents, the team members themselves. And then the judges deliberate on these as well. And I'm sure Nancy will probably go through a bit more.
Let me jump in with one thing about advancements. Last year, 2 weeks before Worlds, we were given a 3rd spot to Worlds. This may happen again, and I just go down the list, right? First place, second place, third place, fourth place, and I just go down. And last year, some of the teams very high up in the rankings took their robot apart. So by the time I called them, I think it was April 5th, the robot was taken apart. So perhaps don't take the robot apart until the end of April. Just stick it on a shelf or something, just in case this happens again. And I get a phone call from headquarters saying, hey, we have another spot for you. And also I have 2 other events, one in Florida, one in New Jersey, that have invited Arizona, and there may be other ones that come. So there will be other teams, 3rd, 4th, 5th place. I just go down and I offer you the events, and you say yes and you say no. Even first place, I'm going to come to you and say, I have a spot at Worlds, and I have all these other events. And if you choose to go to Florida, let's say, for a fun event, then the 2nd place and 3rd place teams will be offered Worlds. You see how that works? So basically, first place gets choice of anything. 2nd place gets choice of what's left, and so on. Okay?
There's going to be 72 teams, so that's a lot of information for the judges to have to consider and work through. So they're probably going to need about an hour and a half to finish that deliberation, write their scripts, and do all that fun stuff. So we are working on some options to keep the teams engaged during this time. They're still in progress. We'll share what those plans are at a later date or Saturday morning. Or if you want some games or something for your team to keep busy during their downtime, that might be a good recommendation as well. Some playing cards or something like that. Again, there's a nice big grassy field. I guess just be mindful and gentle with each other. Again, I know kids can get rambunctious when they're given free will.
Yeah, there'll be some lawn games available, and really the grass is lovely if you've never seen it. And if you think the weather's nice and you want to picnic outside, bring blankets. It's ours. We have the whole grass is reserved for us, and it's huge. So there'll be lawn games, and you are welcome to have a picnic outside.
All right. That ends it for me. So I'll hand it over to our head referee for any remarks that he.
All right, there we go. Welcome, everyone. So this year's going to be a little bit different in that I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. A family issue came up, And so thankfully, Scott has volunteered to step in and take the reins back. For those that are veterans that have been around for a while, you may remember Scott from previous years. He was my predecessor as head referee. So it's wonderful to have him back. And I thank you, Scott. And I'll give you a chance to say any comments here at the end of mine. But the big thing is just another great event to celebrate your team. Remember, that's what the tournament is all about, is that celebration. And we look forward to seeing what your team brings to the table for the field game and the challenge, and see how many points we can score. I hear we've got some high scoring teams out there this year, which is awesome. So a couple of just overarching comments from me is remember that that practice round at the very beginning of the day is very important. You've probably experienced that in the qualifiers, but it's worth repeating that just because you've been through the practice at a regular tournament, it's always good to get that robot in and work the jitters out of the robot during that practice round at state, as well as maybe your young men and women working off their jitters for that practice round. So I can't overemphasize enough the importance of being ready on time for that practice round and taking advantage of that. This year, we do have that Mission 10, the submersible, that has been an issue with table separation, and we will strive to make all the tables identical with the placement of where those stanchions are that support the submersible in Mission 10. So that'll be a big one. And again, that's where the practice really helps to make sure the robot is on target and on track for that. Remember that there are no laptops allowed at the field table. So please leave those in your pits. Have all the programming done before you get to queuing, and just make it easy so we don't have to send anyone away and hand the laptop over to the audience members while the match is going on. So just reminder there. As far as the game itself goes, we'll have basically two, like we have in the past, be running two tables at a time. And we'll have the way we're going to work, we're injecting that two head referees at those tables, and then Scott's going to be the overall referee. So there's going to be, in essence, one head referee and two assistant head referees, or lack of other words, divisional head referees that are working those tables. So when you're scoring with the referees that are there at the table, make sure that teams ask the referees any questions they have about scoring. And as Rick already pointed out, at the end of the scoring process, we'll have the team initial off. If there's any issue after that you want to take a look at the score, please send. Ideally, it would be great if you could send a team captain youth accompanied by the adult coach, and maybe check in with Scott, and I'll let Scott determine how he wants to handle that when he has his comments. But there is that possibility of relooking the score. But that's why it's very important that the team watches with the referees as they score and talk through any issues right then and there on the table for that. And then during the match, remember that there's you coaches are the cheering section along with the audience. You are not telling the teams what to do. And so please keep that in mind. We've stressed that at all the qualifiers, but we still see coaches wanting to coach. It's our natural tendency to help our teams out as much as we can, but please be the cheerleaders for the event, and all will go well. One other thing on the scoring, going back to that, we're planning on using the tablets and the electronic scoring using the event hub, as was indicated. There will be paper backups at all the tables, though. So if we do have an issue with Wi-Fi, which it happens, then definitely we'll have the paper scoring, and that will get into the system just as soon as we can, and all the displays will be updated as far as the rankings go, just as soon as we can make that happen. So you're in good hands with Scott, and I think that's all the major comments that I wanted to make other than good luck to all the teams. I'm going to miss seeing you all there. I anxiously look forward to the FLL state tournament to see all the great kids in action. And unfortunately, I'm not going to make it this year, but I know you're in good hands and it'll be a great event. So, Scott, do you have anything to add?
No, Rich, you did a great job. Only thing I'm going to kind of reiterate two things is, and you already mentioned the submersibles. There are a couple of the missions this year that there can be variation. Another one I was thinking of, Rich, was the changing lanes for the ship. And that model might act a little bit different than how it did at your home field. Be aware that variation does occur. We'll try to make them uh, as perfect as we can, but they're made of plastic. I've had issues in the past where teams have been upset that that variation that the models at state or at the tournament didn't work the same as at home. That variation should be considered when they're coming up with how to solve those missions. We'll give benefit of the doubt where warranted, but be aware that there's usually and you'll see some other teams that have robots that can solve those missions extremely well and deal with that variation. So the teams that can do that well are going to be the ones that will score better. But we'll try to be fair. As far as scoring disputes, personally, if I prefer if at each of the end of the rounds, Rick, I assume there's a little bit of time between round one, round two, and round three. Assuming there's a little bit of a gap there, that would be the ideal time to come and reach out if you do have a scoring concern, and we can go over it at that time. Again, I do prefer that your team captain come and approach and do the explanation. I prefer not to listen to the coach. And just to let you know, again, it is what's on the score sheet and what was signed. Pictures or videos of after the fact don't count. It's what was on the score sheet at the time that it was signed. And I think, Rich, maybe you mentioned this or not, but this year, unlike other years, there's no actions that are going to be scored during the match. Everything is a snapshot at the end of the round, and everything is scored as is at the end of the match. That's what I got. Any questions?
All right, thanks again, Scott. Over to you, Rick.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. So I think Rick went over a lot of the things in my area. What I want to recommend strongly for those teams that really want to be successful at state, a couple of things. Please have your teams look at the rubrics. So if you look at the rubrics, make sure that the teams are providing the information on the rubrics to the judges. So if it says clear mission strategy, please have your team tell the judges what your mission strategy is, why you picked the missions you did, why you picked them in the order that you did. If it says explanation of attachments and the robot, although we love to see the robot and attachments, and I would recommend that your team brings it in. I know some teams forget to bring that in. Please have them also bring a copy of their program. That would also be very helpful for the judges to see that. But the other thing that's more important is that we want to understand why the team designed the robot and the attachments in the way that they designed it. What was the process that they went through to design it? It may be a cool attachment, but understanding the reasons why they created it that way and the changes that it went through during the season. Another thing, a tip for you is if your team has made upgrades or changes since your qualifier to state, real important for the team to talk about that these are some of the improvements that we've made since qualifiers and why you've made those improvements. The judges always love to hear that. So a couple of tips that really would help the teams talk about the improvements that they've made. We want to hear about the improvements that they've made throughout the season, but also any improvements they've made since qualifiers. So I would say that that's the most important thing. If you could have them go back and look at the rubrics and make sure that they're answering all those questions. From a project perspective, I know it's obvious sometimes, but tell us, this is the problem statement that we're trying to solve for. Just clearly state it for everyone so that we understand what that is. And make sure that your team remembers that we are looking for the process that we went through to get to your final results, either on robot or project. It could be the coolest looking thing, but if we don't understand the thought process that you went through to design it in that way, then it's not helpful. In both of those areas, robot and project, the iteration piece is also the other piece that we want them to focus on, because a lot of teams forget to tell us about the testing process on the robot design, and they forget to tell us about how they shared their innovation project with someone else or experts and what they did to improve it. So those are the two key areas that they might want to think about and focus on if they still have time between now and state. So just a couple of tips. Any questions, feel free to reach out to me, or feel free to come off mute and ask now. But good luck to everyone. I'm excited to hear and see all of the teams.
Let me jump in about the adults in the room. The reason why we are allowing more adults this year is because all the rooms are the same size. All of them can accommodate a full ASU classroom of 50 to 70 students. Unlike the MU, where we have to set the attendance to the minimum room that we have, which was really one adult, we have plenty of room this time. However, in 12 years of coaching, I never once set foot in my kids' judging sessions because I knew it wasn't the right thing to do for them to perform to their best. So think about, and maybe talk to your kids before you show up at the event to see what it is that they want and how they will be more comfortable and confident and be able to handle their judging session. And like Rick says, I want to reiterate that we're doing this year, and we haven't done this in Arizona, I think, for a long time, or at least as long as I've been here. We want to make sure that you understand that this is all about the kids. Exactly what Rick said. You are ghosts. You are invisible in that room. You can't carry anything in. Let the students take control and figure out where to put their stuff. And that's about it. Any questions on that? Because I know that could be a big change for some of you. Okay, wonderful. Oh, hang on. What are you doing with notebooks, Nancy, at the end of the judging session? I know that students can bring things in, but what happens then?
So it's all going to be taken out. I mean, with the distance between each of the locations, it's not going to be streamlined if we collect them all and then give them back at the end. So everything will come in with the team and then it will leave with the team. So it's important that the team, if there's information in their documentation, which we all love, if there's information in the documentation that's important for the judges to know, they should reference it in their presentation. So in other words, if their mission strategy is charted out in their documentation, they should refer to it so that the judges can flip to it, and then they can keep on with their presentation.
And what Nancy's describing is exactly how we do it at Worlds. So it's very consistent with what you would see at that level.
If there isn't anything else that Elaine thinks I missed, or Nancy, Rich, Scott, let's open it up to comments from everybody else.
Do they need to show the presentation on their own computers? Yes, you need to bring everything. And again, you can bring a laptop. You can use the laptop as a source of information. You can have slides on it. Sometimes I've seen when I judge where there's a little few seconds of a video where the students want to show us something. Maybe they have a prototype that does something outdoors and they can't bring it indoors. But all of that has to be, you have to provide. You have to provide the power. You can put it on a big tray if you want to. That's okay.
But don't assume that there's going to be an outlet for you to plug in that's at a convenient area. So make sure you
Agreed.
power up your laptop before you go in.
I had a team at Worlds that had probably what was a 50-foot extension cord that they plugged in the hallway, and they brought in, I kid you not, a projector. They had a full-size projector that was plugged in the hallway, but they had planned and they had tested and they knew what they needed, and it was flawless. They came in and did it and was like, whoo, it was great. And there's a ASU Wi-Fi system if that's that you can get on. If you need the Wi-Fi, you can do that. If the pit table area is too full, is it okay to leave our display in our pit table, but the team would be outside? La also attended that at MCC. Yes, I'll say it's okay. It will be busy. We have 72 teams, you guys. We've gone from 54 to 72. And I'm so happy because that gives so many more students the opportunity to come to state. But Rick may jump in here, but the runners will go to your pit. If you're missing somewhere, we can go to your pit and look for you there. But if you're outside, we may not be able to find you. So if you walk away from your pit table, really keep an eye on that schedule. What do you want to add?
I'd recommend keeping a representative at the table.
That's another idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Just make sure if you're hanging out somewhere else that there's somebody at your put table who can either point us to where you are or then go and contact you, because that's the only area that we can, like Elaine said, there's 72 teams. We can't run all around campus. And any announcements that will be made over a PA system that's there in that pit area. I mean, it just starts to leave a sign where the team is if we do the pit area. I don't know how many we're going to have, some like pit runners and stuff, but it's also an issue of staffing. We only have so many volunteers who are able to look for people. So if they're all off, then that limits their ability to talk to all the teams. So like I said, if everybody's paying attention to their schedule, the event should run on schedule. So if you're paying attention to your time and showing up where you need to be, there won't be any issues. It's just in those cases where either if you forget what time it is and miss something, or if we do have technical glitches or somehow get behind and then we're not on the paper schedule, that's where things can kind of fall apart. But again, like the judging sessions, those usually run right on time because they're easy to track and make sure they are where they are. And it's a shorter period of time. But with robot games, sometimes we get ahead, sometimes we get behind. Ideally, we will stay on schedule all day.
And keep in mind, if you're late for your judging session, you've lost time for your session. So we will not give you the full 30 minutes. We will keep on time because we can't shortchange other teams that are on time. So you have to be on time to your judging session, unless it's our fault.
One thing I'll chime in while we're getting some other questions. We did a First Tech Challenge tournament last year at this location. and it worked out great. We had the pits. Actually, it was reversed from what we got this year, in that the pits for FTC were located where we're going to be doing the tournament in LaSalle, and then the FTC competition field was where the pits are going to be for FLL. And the walk back and forth, I made that several times throughout the day as the head referee, and it's a very nice facility, and I I think it'll work out well for the state tournament, and hope you all enjoy it.
So there's not enough space for a full booth. Easy updates.
What's the exact square footage of each pit, Rick? Do you
I
know?
was gonna say I could probably flash up. I mean, my
Yeah,
pit
that'd be
layout
great.
isn't. What?
Yeah, that would be great. You're gonna bring it up, your
Yeah.
floor plan? There we go.
So according to the FLL Challenge, like tournament director manual, the minimum pit they recommend is 8 feet by 8 feet. So your table that they issue, the facility has is 6 feet by about 30 inches, about 6 feet by 2 feet. And then I've designated off that 8 foot by 8 foot around to fit everybody. And then we've basically got either 8 or 5 foot walkways around everywhere. A couple of pits are back to back, and then practice tables down the center. And
So-
these are basketball courts, for a reference of size.
So that's the same, I think, square footage as we got at World. So an 8 foot easy up would be okay to bring to this tournament.
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
absolutely.
Thanks.
I will, if you could bring some gaffer's tape or duct tape and put it on your feet. They literally, like a couple weeks ago, just resurfaced the gym floor, so we're gonna try and not scratch it up. But I mean, they know what this event is, and they're okay. I mean, but if we can do what we can to not instantly gouge it, that'll be
Yeah, I'll
beneficial.
make sure to be careful. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a high ceiling, so ceiling height is not a problem at all.
Oh,
As long as your awning is no more than 8 feet by 8 feet.
This is all public.
There we go. Oh, look at
Google
that.
Street View. You can actually look.
Rick comes prepared. So you see this running track up at the top? Not allowed on that. It's because the students are going to be there exercising. So we're literally have the entire gym floor is ours. There's bathrooms there, there's a water dispenser, and then the path to the front door.
Yeah.
And so if you need to burn some steam, we will have all kinds of lawn games on the grass outside.
Just that pathway.
Yeah, that's
right
it.
to the front door.
Yeah. And we will be streaming, the Jeremy's live stream that he does with the scoreboard, and with he's going to have cameras on every single one of the tables. All of that will be streamed at both ends of the gym. So you'll be able to keep an eye on the action and on the scoreboard while you're in your pits.
Power.
Yes.
We are
love
going to
power.
have to. So there are power outlets in the walls. There's 5 within that room. We're planning to have some power strips at those locations, but everybody's gonna need to share.
It was the one thing, Molly, the one thing that we were like, okay, we got to think about power. So we will have for you, they're kind of these round white, multi-outlet, and we'll have those in all the power outlets in the gym. There's some in the middle of the floor that we may or may not be able to use. And I told them, I said, if you find some robots plugged in throughout the building, is that okay? And they said, well, yes, that's okay. You should be okay in the gym floor, but if you need, I mean, listen, I've competed, you guys, I know what it's like. If you need power to keep your robot going, just plug it in and walk away. But they said that would be okay.
Unfortunately, there's just nothing made specifically for robot events. Nobody knows that we need power sources. Maybe if I'm rich, I'll build a facility someday for us all. Put a bunch of drop lines everywhere. One can dream, right? Another question.
All right. I think we're good at 7:29, exactly 1 hour. Very good. Okay, you should all have our emails. If something pops up and you've got a robot game question or a judging question, please feel free to send the questions off to you. CJ's asking if you're going to send the presentation. I don't know if you plan on saying that, but you will be getting lots of emails from us over the next few days with lots of details.
Usually I send it the Sunday night a week ahead. But I send an email that basically just lists out everything that's in here, so that you'll have copies of stuff. And then probably next Thursday, the Thursday before, I'll send out your individual team schedules, assuming that I can get Microsoft Power Automate to work correctly, because I can't send out 72 emails manually. I could do 20 for my qualifiers, but so we'll see. But I plan on sending out your schedules before the event. But you will, when you check in, you will receive another copy of the schedule. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good day. We've tried to think through all the scenarios, and translate what we've been doing in the past to a new facility. Seems like it should work, but
See, I hope this link works, but if you haven't given me your information yet, if you have any special accommodations, I need number of medals. I want to make sure we have enough medals. Pretty sure we do. You can take this link. It's the same link that was sent to you in an email I sent a couple days ago. Not everyone, I don't even think half the teams have responded yet, so I'm concerned that people aren't getting our information. So please go take a look at that. I think that's about it.
and if you don't hear from me like on next Sunday, please check your junk email. I don't know if my email account is getting flagged. With my last tournament, I had people saying they weren't getting my stuff. So hopefully the gremlins have left me alone, but I don't know what was going on there. So, yeah, if you don't hear from me like next Monday, send me or send Elaine an email. Let us know.
Okay? Woot woot.
Good luck, everyone. And Elaine, can we stay on for a couple minutes? And Scott, do you have a couple more minutes? We've got a couple of things.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll stop
you.
the recording.